What's going on, Dolphins? It is your boy Dillon, and I got a couple things that I want to talk about today. Some just NFL related stuff, some Dolphins related stuff. So go ahead and get right into it. So first of all, let's go ahead and start with some of the more NFL related type stuff. So first of all, I saw reports today. There are reports out today talking about how apparently the NFL is not thinking about changing the replay rules and so on and so forth. You know, there's been a lot of talk and, you know, whatever about how the rules are. You know, I've talked about it. Lots of people, you know, fans have talked about it. Obviously, there was the big thing with the Saints game, right, and the pass interference. There were some reports earlier that were saying they may change that and make pass interference reviewable. I think they need to make all penalties reviewable. They need to be challengeable. They need to have, you know, they already have like a crew of people that sits there and just watches every little thing about the game. They need to have, you know, if they need to have just, you know, a crew of like rules experts that you know, can have a voice into the penalties and be like, hey, you need to pick that up. That's not, you know, you don't need to call that, or, you know, that wasn't legit, or you should have done, you know, whatever, right? So they need to do those things. But apparently the NFL is not going to do those things from, you know, current reports. Which is funny because then I also saw reports that they might be changing the rules so that way players are not allowed to join in on celebrations, right? So this past season you saw a lot of celebrations where it was like group photos, right? That wouldn't be allowed anymore. By the way, Albert Wilson was the one that started that. People weren't doing that until Albert Wilson did it in like week 2, and then it just blew up. Just to note that. But anyway, so can we understand the, you know, absolute brazen hypocrisy and care and concern for only money when it comes to the NFL? Because they're not gonna, and the state of their rules, they're not gonna change the rules to actually make the quality of the game better or potentially safer by making, you know, certain penalties and stuff reviewable and whatnot, right? They're not gonna do that. They're not going to clean up the rules so they're easier to understand, less convoluted. They're not going to take out stupid rules like landing on the quarterback that are nonsensical, don't do shit, and in fact actually get other players hurt, i.e. William Hayes. You know, like, they're not going to do that, but then they're going to stop players from joining in on celebrations. Like, come on, really? Are you kidding me? Like, what kind of stupid shit is that? Anyway. So just to, because I wanted to note, you know, more of the fucking NFL's, you know, bullshit. I want to call them out on some more of their bullshit. So anyway, moving on. There have been reports. Well, so real quick. So I'm going to talk about quarterbacks and this draft right now. So first of all, before the season ended, right, when the season was still going on, there was a lot of talk about how the quarterback class is not very good. We don't even know if Kyler Murray is gonna, you know, go NFL or MB or MLB baseball, right? He did choose football, but the quarterback class is still pretty weak, right? But then when the season was getting towards the end, right, when it was getting ready to wrap up, all of a sudden, you started seeing, you know, all of these reports about how good these quarterbacks are and so on and so forth. Well, now there are more reports that there's really no clear top quarterback. And yeah, because the fact of the matter is again, this quarterback class is weak. It's weak, right? Next year's supposed to be a lot better with Tua Tagovailoa is who, you know, everybody's linking us to, and, you know, that's who they were talking about when they were referring us tanking this year, and, you know, if we were gonna do it, we'd do it for him, right? But look, man, first of all, I'm not one of those kind of people that feels like we need to be chasing quarterbacks. Like I don't really get on board of like, you know, let's trade up to go grab a quarterback. You know, I mean, sure, I suppose if you have like this absolute conviction, blah, 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 but you never know. It doesn't matter. You never know. And then, of course, you have quarterbacks like Tom Brady who are picked in, you know, later rounds and so on and so forth, that it's like, it doesn't make sense. Just, that's why, like, it doesn't matter where you pick, it's how you pick, right? I believe in that so much more than where you pick. Why am I going to go, like, chasing guys and, you know, trading away draft capital? If anything, I like to trade down and accrue more picks so that way you increase your probability of getting picks right. So, you know, look, and even if there's one of these, you know, quarterbacks that's at 13, no, I don't want to take him. I want an offensive lineman. Okay. So anyway, I wanted to talk about that a little bit just to make it clear that it's not worth it, right? What the team should do is they should keep Tannehill for the remainder of his contract. He's got like 2 years left, you know, in the broad spectrum with, you know, the contracts that quarterbacks have gotten since Tannehill signed his last extension, the fact that the cap keeps going up. There's plenty of other ways that you can get cap space this offseason. Keep Tannehill, keep him as the reliable veteran presence. Let him, you know, train up these younger guys that you bring in. Absolutely draft a guy this year and next year, but don't go chasing for a quarterback. Pick one, you know, in the middle rounds. You know, look, I believe in, when it comes to the draft, I believe in a best player available / priorities. Like, I believe in a hybrid. Now, here's the thing. All teams say, you know, or for the most part say that they pick best player available, but when they make their draft boards, obviously team needs go into that. So I'm pretty sure that all teams have a philosophy that's basically a hybrid. There's really no differentiating from what I can tell. And I wouldn't really, you know, obviously when you're deciding on players, you know, what you need is super important, and that goes into your evaluations. Now, having said that, you know, I generally like to just pick the best player available based on overall team needs. So, like, what I'm saying is like, if I have, you know, interior offensive lineman, interior defensive lineman, and then let's say edge rusher as my top 3, right? As my top 3 team needs. So, you know, I'm going to pick the best player available out of all, you know, my team needs, right? Like my urgent team needs. So, okay. The way I would do it is I would break down team needs into like urgent, you know, need soon, need in the future, and not really need at all, right? And then, so whatever positions fall into urgent, I would pick, like with my very first pick, I would pick best player available from those positions, right? And then I'd work my way through those positions. When I feel like I've satisfied my needs at those positions, then I'll drop down to, you know, from urgent to need soon, and then need in the future, and then don't need at all, right? Work my way. So that way I make sure that I get my priorities and I can fill the holes on my roster that are most essential. You know, and like I said, if anything, if you're not satisfied at all with any of the picks available, then you move down and you accrue more picks and increase your probability of getting something or someone, you know, that's going to pan out and give you more shots at the positions of need, right? Okay, so then transitioning a little bit, I want to talk about, so, you know, mock drafts are starting to come out and blah, 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 or have been, you know, coming out. Well, here's one from Draft Network, I think it is. And so they did a 7-round mock draft. So we have the 13th, overall we have the 13th, the 48th, the 79th, the 110th, the 141, the 176, and the 212 picks, right? So first, they have us getting Kyler Murray at number 13. Okay, so here's the thing. if Kyler Murray did make it to 13, he's the Heisman Trophy winner. He's like what people are saying is the best, quarterback in this draft. And people would be like, oh, if he drops to 13, that would be like a godsend. They could take him and he could work out great. And if that happened, then I would give credit where credit is due, and I would say that, so on and so forth. But here's the thing, right? If they take Kyler Murray, and then if they cut Tannehill, still end up having to pay him $13 million, and then throw this kid into the fire, well, first of all, if there's a couple ways this could go, right? So if they drafted Kyler Murray, he'd be your first round pick at number 13, and then if you kept Tannehill, okay, that's not the worst situation, because then you could at least, let Kyler Murray like sit for a year and, learn behind Tannehill and what have you, have like a redshirt year basically. And then if, Tannehill got injured or had to come out, then you'd have a pretty high prospect, right? Like a guy who supposedly has a lot of upside that could come in and probably hold it down. The problem with that, though, is, again, you're using your first pick on a quarterback then, and you're not addressing the offensive line, which is then the biggest issue still, right? Because then in that case, Tannehill's gonna get ate to shit because the offensive line can't fucking block or open up running lanes. And then, when Kyler Murray does have to go in after Tannehill gets hurt or whatever, then he's going to get destroyed by the fact that there's no running game and no offensive line to protect him. Right? So I don't like that scenario. If you cut Tannehill, then you still owe Tannehill $13 million, and then you have one of two ways to go from there. Either you can throw Kyler Murray into the fire, baptism by fire, which is super stressful. He doesn't get that redshirt year to kind of, assimilate slowly, learn how to become a professional, learn the system, learn the coaching staff, all that stuff. Right? And he's just going to get thrown into the fire. He's going to have all those expectations, so that decreases his chance for success. And then on top of that, you still didn't address the offensive line, so now he's going to be getting harassed all day, right? And so and then he doesn't have a veteran to learn from, so you have all of these compounding problems, right? But then if you do, and again, you would still owe Tannehill about, I think it's 10 to 13 million, somewhere in there. And then if you decide to get a free agent, right, a veteran guy, well, then you're getting rid of one who's way more than acceptable, way more than reliable, and just because the fans, half the fan base hates him. And then you're going to be bringing in another guy that you would be paying approximately the same, if not more, than what you would have been saving, or than what you would save by cutting Tannehill, which is $18.75 million, right? So you'd have to pay that veteran somewhere around there, if not more, to come in as a stopgap, right? Or whatever. But in that case, then Kyler Murray, your first pick, is still sitting on the bench and learning, which I think is great. I think he should in the first year, whoever the quarterback is. But I know Dolphins fans, being that he would be a first round pick, would be like, oh, no, he needs to play now. But again, that's part of the reason why we shouldn't be taking a quarterback with the first pick, because then you have all these expectations. Well, he's a first round pick, he needs to play now. But that's not the smart way to go about it. Certainly not if you want to build for the future and have sustainable success, right? I'd rather have, I know this sounds crazy to a lot of people, but if they do things properly, I'd rather have a little bit of a down year this next year while we have a brand new coaching staff, while we are, trying to find a young quarterback to replace Tannehill in a couple years, if the team sees fit to do that, and so on and so forth. Anyway, so let's move on, though. Then they go in round 2, Devin Bush Jr., linebacker. Okay, linebacker, sure. We could probably use another body, but honestly, we can get linebackers either late in the draft or as undrafted free agents. We do not need to take one in round 2. We have Kiko Alonso, who had 125 tackles last season, 3 forced fumbles, and 3 interceptions. I don't know why people want to get rid of Kiko Alonso. It's absolutely absurd. Then we have Raekwon McMillan and Jerome Baker, who both got significantly better in their first year playing. I know McMillan's year 2, but he had his injury, so it was like, you know, second go, round 2 at you know, first year. They both got significantly better as the year went on. They're going to get even better going forward. And we have some decent backups as well. So we don't need a linebacker in round 2. We don't need to take one. We can take one later, right? So as you can see, I do not agree with the way that a lot of these mock drafts are like this. It's ridiculous. Okay, then finally, in round 3, they actually get to one of our, you know, main positions of need. I know a lot of people, I'm sorry, just real quick. I know a lot of people think quarterback is such a high priority for us, but it's not. It's not. We have a dude that is far more than adequate. He can win us games. He can hold it down, but we need to protect him. That's been the number one issue with Ryan Tannehill. Not Tannehill himself, his fucking protection. Anyway, so finally in round 3, they take a position of need. Jalen Ferguson, edge. Sure, okay, great. But you could have gotten a much higher rated and a much higher ceiling prospect in round 1 or 2 getting that edge rusher, as opposed to round 3 and taking positions and players that you don't really need, right? Then they go Rock Ya-Sin. That's his name. Rock is his first name. Ya-Sin, Y-A-S-I-N, is the dude's name. That's a pretty cool name, I'm not going to lie. But it's a cornerback. And so this is round 4. Okay, so cornerback in round 4. Okay, I do think we absolutely need to take a cornerback. Round 4, that's not bad. That's not bad. I'm okay with that. I'm alright with that. Round 5, or you know, I'm assuming actually, because we only have 2, 4, 6, 7 picks. So I am assuming that these are all, it's just one from each round. Also, real quick, shout out to Reshad Jones. It is his birthday. Happy birthday to Reshad Jones. Anyway, then in the next round, they take David Sills, the 5th. He's a wide receiver. We don't need a fucking wide receiver. I know everybody wants to get rid of Parker, and at this point, I'm wearing his jersey. At this point, I would say, with Parker, I wouldn't hate it if they got rid of him. I wouldn't hate it if they kept him. And I can certainly understand why you would get rid of him at this point. Okay, fine. I know a lot of people want to get rid of Danny Amendola, but why? Why? He's not that expensive. He only has 1 more year on his contract. He's a veteran wide receiver. Most of our receivers are really young, and he's reliable. Why get rid of him? Why? Anyway, but then you also have Kenny Stills, Albert Wilson, Jakeem Grant, Bryce Butler, Isaiah Ford. You have a bunch of wide receivers. We don't need one. Again, that's a position, if you want to pick up a wide receiver, pick up late rounds or undrafted free agents. I know that is the 5th round, but so it's not as bad. But then round 6, one of the biggest areas of need on this team, they don't pick up until round 6. Are you fucking joking me? Interior offensive lineman Lester Cotton in round fucking 6. That needs to be round 1. Round 1. Stop chasing a quarterback that you don't have any idea about, really, right? You don't know how he's going to translate into the NFL. You don't know if he's going to have success, especially if you throw him into the fucking fire day 1 with no veteran leadership, with, you know, a brand new coaching staff, blah, blah, blah. Yes, I repeat myself because people don't get it. People don't take all of these things into their equation, right? No matter how much other people or how much people want to dismiss these things, these are factors that play a role into how things turn out, whether you like it or not. So take them into account, right? Do not dismiss them. They are important factors. They are all part of the equation. You can't just cut out pieces of the equation and expect it to the answer to be the same. That's ridiculous, right? If you have 2 + 2, right, that equals 4. If you cut out the 2 and replace it with like a 1, then it's not 4 anymore. Right? Or if you have, you know, 2 + 2 + 2 equals 6, right? Well, okay, but then if you completely take out one of those factors, right? Or let's do it a little bit different. Let's say you have 1 + 2 + 3, right? That equals 6. If you take out one of those factors, Let's say you take out the 3, now it equals 3. Let's say you take out the 1, now it equals 5, right? Let's say you take out the 2, now it equals 4. It's important to have full context and to make sure that you're taking everything into account, okay? And then the last pick is Bryce Love, running back. Frank Gore, Kenyon Drake, Kalen Ballage, Sonoris Perry, Brandon Bolden. Sorry, don't need him. Don't need him. It is, round 7, so okay, whatever, sure. But that's something you could get a free agent. Look, here's how I would draft. Round 1, offensive lineman. Round 2, either interior, or round 1, interior offensive lineman, either left guard or center. Round 2, interior defensive lineman or edge rusher. Round 3, another offensive lineman, interior offensive lineman, or, that could trade off with, an edge rusher or a defensive lineman. So at this point, you're either going to have 2 offensive linemen or 2 defensive linemen. Round 4, 3, I could say you could take the quarterback as well. That'd be all right. Okay, round 4, then you take either a quarterback or a cornerback, or another offensive lineman or defensive lineman, whichever position you had only picked one of so far, right? And then, like I said, towards the end of the draft, then maybe pick up a linebacker, right? Whatever. In this draft, we need 2 interior offensive linemen, 2 defensive linemen, so at least 1 interior and 1 edge rusher within the first 5 rounds, and then you can throw in a quarterback and a cornerback in there as well to help fill out the middle to late rounds. But we don't need a wide receiver. We don't need running backs. We don't need a linebacker in round 2. We don't need to fucking take Kyler Murray at number 13 if he happens to be there. We don't need to do that. It's not a necessity. It's not an urgent need for sure. And we have other areas we need to fill and to solidify. Right? Especially because then we don't know what's going to happen with Juwan James. He is becoming a free agent, but they absolutely need to lock him up. If they do not, they are foolish and stupid, right? And so, look, man, I don't know. It's absolutely crazy to me. Anyway, so real quick, Pro Football Focus had Juwan James and Laramie Tunsil as 2 of the best tackles in the AFC East. I know that they rated pretty high overall in the AFC as well. Look, man, they just need to do it. And then one last thing too. So I did see a little write-up. One prospect that they had for us taking early on is Alex Bars from Notre Dame. Excuse me. He's a left guard. He played left and right guard in college, which is good because then he has versatility. I think Jesse Davis will be fine at right guard. He had a back and forth season last year, but that also could be attributed to the other players around him and so on and so forth. It's not all on him. Anyway, and so there is position flexibility there, but we do need a left guard. He's 6'5", 315 pounds. He did have a ACL, MCL injury. It didn't say, the reports I saw that talked about it didn't say it was a tear, but he had an injury sometime last season, but I think he's going to be good to go for the combine and stuff like that. Certainly he'll be good to go for the upcoming season, but he's said to be, really tough, really good, strong, fierce left guard, and that's what we need at left guard. We're going to need somebody who will be able to pull, who's going to be able to get, good run blocks and be able to, take on, double teams or whatever, or stunts, right? We need guys that can do all these different things. But the interior offense of the offensive line is one of the most important positions going into this upcoming draft. Yeah, so I think that's about it. That's all I got for you guys today. I hope you guys enjoy my videos. I hope you guys enjoy my perspective and the things that I have to say. And like I said, man, at the end of the day, I just Look, if I'm ever wrong about anything, I don't care about that. I don't have to be right. It's just I want the facts, right? The facts are what matter. The context matters. You know, all of that stuff is super important. So when people are doing their evaluations and determining what the best course of action is going forward, I want people to be logical and reasonable. I want them to take the full context, have all of the information, all of the facts, all of the data. Do not discount factors like they don't exist, because they do, and they play a part in the evaluation and the equation, right? And then, you know, through that, use that to provide your evaluation, and then to make the best decisions for, you know, not just the here and now, but also the future, right? Long-term sustained success is the goal. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoy my videos. If you do, make sure you hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the like button, make sure you hit the bell if you want to get the alerts. Leave your questions, comments, and concerns down in the comment section. And as always, make sure you follow me on Twitter at Dillon Tartaro. And with that, I am out. I'll see y'all soon. Fins up.